That's when the man says a member of the entourage pulled out a gun and then demanded money. The man says he handed over $3,200 in cash and claims DMX, the rap star, took that money directly out of his. Police in Newark, New Jersey, investigating claims that rap star DMX and his entourage were involved in an early morning robbery.
He has my arms behind my back, and we're both supposed to drop to the ground at the same time. You know, on cue, I drop, and he stays up, dislocated my shoulder. What goes around comes around, and he ended up hurting himself on the set and was out for 2 weeks. So
Steven Seagal built his fame as Hollywood's so-called untouchable tough guy. But behind the scenes, he carried the reputation of a straight bully who thought nobody could check him.
Somebody lying when they showed up and what had happened was.
I was rushing for a flight.
Right.
And this dude in the raggedy ass Honda, he driving wild slow.
Right.
Now, usually if I'm in a rush, you know what I'm saying, and I'm in that truck, I'll hit the lights and, you know, throw the siren or whatever, and they get out the way.
Right.
But he was just totally disrespecting my...
That energy didn't shake everybody, though. Then came DMX, raw and unpredictable, running on a kind of real power you couldn't script.
Steven Seagal actually really hit stuntmen on set.
He
would actually hit the stuntman.
Broke the guy's face, split his face open from cheekbone to jawbone.
Wow.
I mean, he hurt people.
When their paths crossed, the tension was explosive, and Seagal quickly realized he picked the wrong one to mess with. His image was already drowning in endless allegations, failed movie sets, fights with crews, and serious harassment claims. People who worked with him painted the same ugly picture. Seagal was chaos on set. Co-stars and stuntmen described him as abusive, egotistical, reckless, stories of dislocated shoulders, busted bones. Even him throwing dirty low blows just to test if stunt guys wore cups. The bad press never stopped piling up. Most actors stayed silent because Seagal's star power was too heavy to challenge. But DMX was different. He wasn't scared, wasn't folding. By 2001, he was stepping into acting, landing his biggest role in Exit Wounds, and standing eye to eye with Steven Seagal. From the very start, the set was nothing but madness. Day one turned dark when a stuntman lost his life in a freak accident that shook everybody. But Seagal didn't slow down. He went full reckless mode, hurling a stuntman through real glass instead of the fake setup. The poor guy was only supposed to fake the smash, but Seagal turned it into a brutal reality. And then came the legendary clash, DMX versus Seagal. The shoulder hit that still gets talked about. Fight choreographer Dion Lamb had carefully mapped every move with Seagal, running rehearsals with doubles Joe Baccaro for Seagal and Errol G for DMX. They even demoed the fight for Seagal and the producers, and everyone agreed it was flawless. But 6 weeks later, when the cameras fired up for the showdown, Seagal flipped the script. Dion's crew reset the routine, only for Seagal to suddenly declare it wouldn't work and demanded it all be trashed and redone his way. Chaos erupted instantly. Seagal, Dion, director Andrei Bartkowiak, and producer Dan Rollo screaming at each other like the set was a war zone. Seagal eventually stormed off set, then came back and filmed the fight exactly how Dion had mapped it out. But Seagal being Seagal, he couldn't keep it professional. As soon as cameras rolled, he flipped the script. In one sequence, both he and DMX were supposed to crash to the ground at the same time. Instead, Seagal stayed standing tall, leaving DMX to hit the floor alone, landing ugly. The impact was brutal. X's shoulder popped out clean, pain so sharp he had to step away from filming for days. But that wasn't the end, not even close. When DMX healed up, he made sure to return the favor. In the middle of another fight scene, he ditched the stunt taps and fired a real punch straight at Seagal. No fake, no camera trick, and a solid hit that flipped the entire vibe of the set instantly. And trust, X didn't stop there. He later made it clear to Seagal that the war between them was far from finished. In one interview, DMX straight up called it karma. He said, "What goes around comes around," pointing out that Seagal ended up hurting himself on set, benched for 2 whole weeks. Now sure, accidents happen in action movies, but people close to X always ask the same question. Was it really random? Or did DMX play a role in that twist of fate? He wasn't the type to let disrespect slide. Martial artist or Hollywood star, it didn't matter. Cross X and you paid the price. That's why plenty still believe Seagal's so-called accident wasn't an accident at all. And X didn't let the smoke clear. In later interviews, he kept firing shots with no filter. He admitted he hit Seagal harder than scripted just to check him. A wake-up call to all that ego. In one fiery Raptor sit-down, X flat-out clowned Seagal as an effin' ish head with spray on hair, even mocking his voice like some twisted overseer. That raw, unscripted punch never made the exit wound's final cut, but it sparked non-stop whispers about their messy, real-life beef. The gap between them was night and day. Steven Seagal was a Hollywood bully, leaning on his Aikido tricks and studio power to throw weight around. DMX? He was cut from the streets, fearless, built on real chaos, and never bowing to Hollywood status games. Respect wasn't optional with X, and anybody trying to play him was gonna feel it. His wild side was the stuff of legend. Ask anyone in his circle, and they'll tell you rolling with DMX meant you were guaranteed to end up in some insane situation. Surviving a night out with him was a blessing on its own. Just ask Swizz Beatz. He's stacked with wild stories. One of the craziest? They'd hop in cabs, acting up, then bounce without paying. To X, taxis were free rides. He didn't owe a cent. Swizz remembered one night he tried to actually pay, and X snapped on him for even suggesting it. But then it got real. Swizz noticed the driver had a gun on his lap. That's when DMX cooled off quick and handed over the cash, dodging what could have turned deadly. Then came the wild Ja Rule story. At the height of their fame, DMX convinced him to hop in a Mercedes-Benz for a quick joyride. Only catch? The car wasn't theirs. It belonged to Def Jam exec Michael Kaiser. And the bigger twist, X didn't even have a license. But that never stopped him. He slid into the driver's seat, flooring it through Miami, while Ja held on tight in the passenger side like his life depended on it. Of course, the ride didn't last. Cops eventually pulled them over and hit X with the usual license and registration. DMX didn't flinch. He told them straight up the car wasn't his. Normally, that type of move ends with handcuffs. But this was DMX and Ja Rule in their prime. The cops let them go. Only rule was they couldn't keep the Benz. Instead of calling a cab, X stuck out his thumb and started hitchhiking. A fan recognized them instantly, scooped them up, and drove them to her grandma's spot, where the whole neighborhood ran out screaming to meet the legends. What started as a near arrest flipped into a full-on block party, kids lining up for photos, food on the grill, neighbors pouring out to vibe with DMX and Ja. But then came the Aries Spears story, and it was straight intimidation. At an event promoting his comedy CD, Aries was asking celebs for quick endorsements, even DMX. But X wasn't laughing at those impressions Aries had been doing of him. DMX told him, "We need to talk," and led him into a locker room. Suddenly, almost 30 dudes followed inside, circling Aries and X, while a bodyguard slammed the door shut. DMX pressed him about the jokes, and Aries tried to explain it was all comedy, nothing personal. He even pitched his CD like he did with everyone else. That's when X raised the stakes, telling him, "Come to my hotel later, let me hear it. If it's good, cool. If not..." And then he just paused, dragging the tension out. What rattled Aries most was the move after. DMX slid a razor blade from under his tongue. Aries admitted he never pulled up to that hotel, and then came the wild tales of X and his dogs. Not just pets, but partners in crime, riding with him in robberies that turned into street legend. Jermaine Dupri once broke down one of the wildest nights he ever witnessed. DMX robbing a music reporter using nothing but his dog, no guns, no weapons, no threats, just pure intimidation from man and beast. It went down during a Get Yours Right session for Dupri's 1998 album, Life in 1472. Jermaine later called it one of the craziest nights of his career, sharing the memory on Instagram. He had arranged for a writer from The Source to cover the session, a behind-the-scenes look at working with big names like DMX. The reporter pulled up to the New York studio early, before X even arrived. When DMX finally walked in with his dogs, the mood was calm at first. But by the time Jermaine stepped into the studio, everything had flipped. The reporter had just been robbed, and the dogs were part of the stick-up.
But you know, what goes around comes around, and he ended up hurting himself on the set and was out for 2 weeks. So,
good.
He put one guy's, stunt guy, put his head through the window. With his, he was just supposed to act like he hit him. He actually grabbed the guy and pushed his.
The stuntman died on the first day of shooting.
Really?
Because of just it was just so crazy. On the day one, stuntman died from a simple stunt, cracked his head.
According to Jermaine, DMX used his canine's presence to shake the man into handing over everything: jewelry, valuables, personal items, all of it. The crazy part? The dog never even attacked. Just standing there was enough to make the guy fold, and this wasn't an isolated incident. Jadakiss later confirmed in a 2019 interview that he'd heard plenty of wild DMX dog stories just like this. Jadakiss once laid it all out. Back in Yonkers, DMX used to rob people with nothing but his dog Boomer by his side. No gun, no weapon, just that pit bull's presence, and folks instantly knew what time it was. Boomer was so intimidating that people handed over everything on command. Jada even cracked jokes calling it dog robbery instead of armed robbery. He summed it up perfectly. From stick-ups with his pit bull to starring in action flicks with Jet Li, DMX's story was flat out unreal. But behind the madness, Jada stressed, X's bond with his dogs was deep and unshakable. Even DMX's ex-wife, Tashera Simmons, confirmed it. She recalled being just 11 years old when she saw X command a pit bull to snatch an old woman's purse. And the dog obeyed instantly, no hesitation. Fat Joe had his own jaw-dropping story too. After a show with Big Pun and X, they pulled up to a gas station. Out of nowhere, a man walked in rocking a shiny chain. And DMX didn't hesitate. He robbed him right there on the spot, like it was second nature, and the madness didn't end there. A fan once came forward claiming DMX robbed him right after a Newark show. The 21-year-old said X and his crew rolled up at a gas station, someone flashed a gun, and DMX snatched $3,200 straight out of his hands. Reports even claim cameras caught parts of it as X's crew pulled off in black Escalades. The story blew up across the country. DMX laughed it off, saying he made more money in a single show than what the guy accused him of stealing. His lawyer piled on, clowning the whole case, asking who would actually believe DMX was out here sticking up random dudes at a gas station. In the end, cops dropped it. No charges, no case, just another headline. But legal chaos followed DMX everywhere. Robbery, assault, carjacking, tax evasion. His rap sheet read like a novel. One of the craziest chapters hit in June 2004 at JFK Airport. At 33, right at the height of his fame, X pulled off something that felt ripped from an action flick. Reports said he and his boy Jackie Hudgens drove up, with DMX claiming he was a federal agent. He even rammed his SUV through a parking gate, barking at the attendant that he was on official government business. Then things spun even wilder. DMX allegedly tried to drag a man named Sergei Pereperin out of his own car by the seatbelt buckle, basically an attempted carjacking right on the spot. When cops swarmed in, they didn't just catch X mid-move, they uncovered way more. Inside his ride, police said they found crack rocks, diazepam, oxycodone, and even a billy club tucked away. The charges piled up instantly. Possession, impersonating a federal officer, weapons, menacing, DUI, the list kept growing. By December 2004, he managed to score a conditional discharge, but the chaos was far from over. In 2005, DMX pleaded guilty to violating parole, throwing him back into an endless cycle of courtroom battles, flashing cameras, and headlines that never let him breathe. Meanwhile, Sergei Pereperin clapped back with a $4 million lawsuit against DMX for assault, battery, and emotional distress. The court didn't give him millions, but X still got hit hard, ordered to cough up $240,000. His lawyer even argued that DMX felt justified since the driver wouldn't move out the way. Wild defense. But that was X's world. In the end, jail became like a second address. DMX landed behind bars more than 30 times in his life, each stay adding to his legend and his pain. Don't forget to subscribe to the Gossip channel, smash that like button below, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think.